Sorry about the delay. We had to switch rooms, so I apologize. But welcome to the crash course. This is the session on biomimicry with Tetsu Ohara, so I'll hand it over to him. But welcome him.
Good. I was worried that nothing shows up on the screen. Good morning. Thank you so much for coming in this beautiful weather, well ventilated space. Upstairs is a little bigger, but I think that this is a little bit more cozier. So thank you for your time. And my name is Tetsu Ohara. I'm an interior design faculty at Pratt, and also a director of sustainability in our department. And I'd like to share with you how my class, Option Lab, actually, it's not a course studio, but it integrates biomimicry principle and ideas into design proposal. And that like to take you to a couple of steps and breaks it down to a ways how we can start to not just formally mimic and copy, but to understand how we can research, understand, identify, abstract, translate, and apply to a design proposal in the kind of a context of an interior design field. If that's okay with you. And if I may see your hands, how many people are related to school, academia, professors, students, and professionals who have been working with the principle of biomimicry, have done projects before with it? Oh, that's great. That's wonderful. I'm not a biologist. I'm a designer, but I really love the idea of incorporating the wisdom of things that you can find in nature. You know, it's 3.6 billion years of development and design. We don't need to invent anything new. There are so many things that are out there on this planet that we can learn and associate and emulate. And that's what's the kind of the things that we want to do today. The structure for this will be in the next 30 minutes. I will go over the general visual diary of it. Won't be able to summarize 3.6 billion years of work in 30 minutes, let alone 16 weeks of lecture series into 30 minutes. So it's going to be, instead of just bombarding you with a series of too much information, I'll just kind of skim through, but I will try to summarize that will be visually enticing for you. And it's easy to understand for both academia and students, as well as for the professional. I'll try to do my best. It's my first time running this lecture on biomimicry, so I'm a little new at this. But and since this is a lab that we run, a lab not in the sense of research laboratory style, we don't have any kind of nanotechnology or scanning device or chemistry lab, but we, by principle, in theory, we're trying to understand what nature gives and trying to incorporate. So next 30 minutes, I'd like to go over the synopsis of it and like to share 3 students' work from the class, and they have resulted in wonderful proposals. So I'm looking forward to hearing Carolyn first and Suchi next and Bitsy. And we should be able to have a little extra time to show you a small video at the end, and leading to a Q&A. All right, so biomimicry, the idea of biomimicry has been around for a long time, but somebody is the godmother who has brought it forward, who have really pushed this envelope into an innovative consultant, as well as the biologist who really pushed the envelope to a next level is Janai Benyus, and that she is really our forefront leader. And you probably have seen her videos on TEDs and other types of things. And I am also myself a 3.8 biomimicry member, but I would like to try to find a way to relate to my own discipline, which is interior architecture. But what she talks about most of the time is that there was so much of industrial manufacturing strategy of heat, beat, and treat, and there's a lot of energy wasted. And that why don't we, instead of doing the typical industrial process with carbon footprint issues and other environmental concerns, why don't we utilize this very rich works of genius and use it for your own conception, innovation, invention for that matter. So biomimicry, she says, is learning from then emulating natural forms, natural processes, and natural ecosystems to create more sustainable design. Some examples, she did not, I don't think she invented this. The idea of Velcro comes from the burr, and you can really zoom in and take a look at the structure and the way that it really wants to bind each other. It's easy to be able to undo and redo. And there is some kind of the ways that this is more of a literal mimicry, but it's been inspired by from the biology. And these are the examples that they show in Biomimicry 3.8. You can also go to asknature.org. That's another place that you can find a lot of good inspirations. I recommend it. And we, as a class, have gone through those kind of database links that allows us to tap into a wealth of information that are available. Sometimes we can't invent or search in, we're just too busy in a school environment, so we rely on some of the readily available information. I highly recommend it. So here's another example of a lotus leaf. They call it a lotus effect. When you look into the nanotechnology, zooming in, magnifying, and you can start to see the surface, the construct, the properties, components, tactility that allows, for example, in this case, to be able to keep themselves clean. And that when the water or rain collects, it really has a way of not only rolling and moving the water towards lower surface or lower grade, it has the property of collecting all the molecules and dust that is on the surface of the lotus leaves. And looking into that, this German scientist from Berlin found the way to create a wall surface in the paint that mimics that kind of tactility, so that it doesn't require cleaning equipment, water blasting, energy inefficient way of cleaning the walls and surfaces. Maybe the nature itself, the rain itself could collect and sweep and clean themselves. And that kind of thinking is really wonderful because, yes, people can say, oh, we can do it with our power tools and we can plug it in the machine to do it. But if you are to think about the carbon footprint, every time you turn on a machine, you're using an energy. Instead, why don't we incorporate something that are already available, just to not copy and paste, but translate, abstract, and find the chemical, biological, and physical structure of it and being able to apply it to our daily lives. That's basically the biomimicry in principle. For me, and for us in our class, in a context of interior design, the challenges merge. It's not an architecture with the external envelope standing alone, the building itself that contains both external and internal membrane. Product design, something that you can hold and say, this is the product that I designed. Everything is contained within. Interior design challenges for us is that it's given in a building envelope. We need to tackle an issue, something that we can mimic and make it perform and contribute back to our lives or performance or productivity within that building envelope. So how do we tackle that? And there aren't that many good examples out there in the interior design industry incorporating the biomimicry principle. And so that's our challenge. And I just wanted to take the baby step forward. And I haven't gone to any kind of place of a major leap, but I just wanted to share the kinds of things that I break it down to be able to teach, share, and collaborate with my students at Pratt. So obviously, the lectures are, we break it down to understanding of nature, surfaces, construct, materiality, processes, and there's a whole gamut of it. But anyway, so there are many lectures, and also collaborated with, as you can see in the CSDS, life cycle analysis component to it as well. So, like I said, instead of getting into the details for each one of them, I wanted to make sure that we cover the general. So, trying to do with less words, simplify thoughts so that you don't have to feel bombarded with information overload. The 3 levels of mimicry that I find important to do, and this is also from this 3.8, is the 1 level is a natural form mimicry of the lookalikes, the things that, how he looks, basically, 2D. So forms, geometry, patterns, and numbers. And level 2, natural process, how it's made, 3D, in a sense. How is it built? How is it putting together? What kind of materials? What types of anatomy compose it? And like I said, we're not a chemist, we're not a structural engineer, but we're trying to do as much research as possible and understand the historical background and scholastic studies so that we do our own set of researching. And level 3 is mimicking the natural ecosystem. This is the part that it gets really difficult for interior stuff, because how can we mimic an ecosystem within the building envelope that it's given by an architect or building or previous owner, and then trying to give it back? So this part is a challenging part, but at least we can think of and mimic like how nature behaves and performs. Maybe we can really think about this life cycle analysis. And also, since we are occupying the proposal and the design would habitate inside of the space, maybe we can tap into indoor environmental quality. And maybe there is a way of our design proposals in interior context can contribute to the society. Maybe those kind of things is the way that we translated the mimicking of the natural ecosystem in the context of interior design, spatial design, if you will. So this level 1, 2, 3 will continue to be the way that I would organize to talk about today, and won't be able to get into each one of the formulas and findings, but I just wanted to kind of go over them. So mimicking of the natural forms. And in understanding the forms, I think we can start to dissect or come from, analyze, abstract in some form that previous scholars, human understanding of biology. It could be done in the patterns, scales, and methods, or rules and laws. So we tap into it so that it's not the answer to go to, but sometimes you might find a further inspiration of how we can gather and collect our information to apply this level 1, 2, and 3 for the design proposal. One of them is a biologist, naturalist, and a philosopher who actually came up with this idea of family tree and was interested in understanding the geometry of microorganisms, and in the best science and technology they had to be able to zoom in, analyze, document the kind of geometries that are readily available in the natural world. Ernest Haeckel is an amazing individual. You have seen, these are all hand-drawn things, but it's his life work. There's a whole book full of imageries that you could be inspired by or to be surprised by. The type of things that we don't get to see. We don't see in the bare eyes, naked eyes, but there's something to be said. In natural forms, another way of understanding it is the kind of a ratio, a law, something that exists in nature that we extracted as for some sort of a mathematical understanding. So Fibonacci series, I think you might know. It's slightly different from golden section, but it's very much the same. So the previous number plus the one that follows, you add them and it becomes that ratio. And you can find, so 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 3 is That 55 plus 89 is 144, and you can find this ratio, Fibonacci series or numbers, in many places in the nature. So we're I'm just trying to decipher some of the things that nature has done without the calculation, but we as a designer need to know some kind of a basis of how the numbers work, how the laws work. And the series of diagrams could help to be able to further abstract how things, patterns, the spirals, and geometries are formed. And maybe that abstraction of the diagram could be used for further emphasis or inspiration for design proposal. Natural forms, level 1 still. Scale and magnification. When you look into, this one is just a moth, but something else emerges. It's incredible and beautiful, but it's just not only appreciating the beauty of it, but maybe there is something more to be able to understand how these camouflaging, the enablement of being able to fly so easily, the glideability in the air. It's just an amazing thing to be able to understand the material, the weight, composition. When you get closer, you can even start to see why some of these butterfly or moth wings are able to do what they can do with such little energy. So the sense of energy efficiency is manifested in the structure and the forms. And these little pockets and ribs to be able to, you can really fan this thing and you can feel the air almost. That's incredible. That's magnified 5,000. So there's a little bit of technology and science that needs to kind of collaborate to decipher the nature a little bit from our end and our kind of a gathering, if you will. Another golden section that people talk about all the time, the way that the patterns and things grow. We can tap into that as well and start to decipher the ratio, a growth proportion and such, and you can find it everywhere. This is level 2. Now it's not just the form and surfaces, but what if we start to look at the 3D level and paying attention to what kind of geometries that are available, what type of, you don't see squares, you don't see orthogonal order in nature. It's always somehow bimorphic or hexagonal or tetrahedron. And there's a certain kind of angles, numbers that comes with it. And in this case, Plato's law. Plato is a different guy. Yeah, I haven't met him. But Plato's law starts to understand the construct. This is a natural phenomena that when you inject air into a surface of foam film, it will start to multiply, but it happens in 109.47 degrees every time. I'm not sure. It's speculative, but there's a certain kind of a numbers that comes with it. Maybe we can start to tap into those numbers and ratios as well for us to understand how nature works. It's really beautiful. I mean, thinking about the kind of a delicateness, the expandability, the impermanence. There are a lot of different kinds, transparency, the stacking, the surface reflectivity. There are all kinds of potential spatial language that we can acquire from these kind of studies as well. The phony. It's a limestone, sandstone, granite that it's being eroded and weathered. It's a subtractive process from the salt in the air, in the ocean. And it might be geomimicry, but I have a feeling it's okay to include some of these things as well as part of our inspiration. It starts to look like an Indian caves or inhabitation of an old. It has a very spatial quality to it. The way that it erodes, it does take millions or hundreds of years to be able to do this, but there is something fascinating to see it this subtractive process. Spider web. There are many other things that we should tap into, but these are all interesting and point-worthy, announcing-worthy, research-worthy components where you can start to understand the sequencing and also the property of the material. I didn't know that the tensile strength of spider silk is greater than that. And people were thinking about making a bulletproof vest. That's incredible. Let's do that. I mean, you know, not that we need more guns, so we need a bulletproof vest. That's not what I'm trying to say. That some kind of a thing that we don't have to reinvent from, you know, DuPont or 3M or some kind of a chemical manipulation. There are some things that nature has done, and we can learn that, utilize that, and somehow we need to translate that, because we can't just use 100 million spiders and trying to apply it to human use. I haven't done that. Maybe it's something else one can do, but that's not the exact literal translation of it, but understanding the property and apply it to something else. Mushrooms, fungus, group of eukaryotic organisms. Has its own interesting behavior and a property in the way it grows. Snow crystals. I used to think that it was like a like a rain falls in the air that is changing its property, but it's actually the water vapor that is responding back. And there's a whole gamut of different crystallization according to the temperature, according to the height, density of the water, and it has its own unique property to it. Honeycombs. And once again, hexagonal. There's always, I guess it's an easiest and most efficient way of building something in nature is a hexagonal forms. And here, there it talks about a little bit of tilt of the degree between 9 to 14. Not only the gravitational, it's for safety purposes, for each cell remains intact, and also it's a protection of what's inside. We can talk about serial repetition, the home, nesting, different kinds of spatial language you can also explore. Bioluminescence, there's a whole science of it, and it merits more than just a skim code of conversation and summary. But why do we need to turn the light on? Maybe we can generate illumination of some sort. We probably won't be able to turn the stadium lights on with bioluminescence, who knows? But we can at least generate and find understanding the light emitting pigments and others, combine it together. Many different kinds of specimens do glow. I've been to Vieques, and they have a bioluminescent bay. So I've seen some of them. I haven't seen the bioluminating mushrooms yet, but I'm looking forward to doing more research and visiting, and just gives you a reason, an excuse to go to other parts of the world. I think that's amazing. So level 2, natural process, structure, construct, mimicking. So a lot of biomimicry in general does a lot of copying and mimicking the form, but it doesn't really get deeper than that. So we're trying to push level 2 and level 3 to get a little bit more critical and be not just form mimicking, but start to apply much more deeper thinking towards how the biomimicry really works. That's 11:30. Okay, speed up. Structure, construct, material, anatomy, rules, and so it's in a similar format. I will start to show it to you. Buckminster Fuller, abstraction of the sphere into different kinds of geometry. We need to, as a designer, understand the geometric construct to be able to provide a form, a surface. So I think it's important to be able to mathematically calculate so that we can propose, we can draw, we can construct. It needs to represent in some kind of formula. And For example, in this case, instead of drawing a sphere, how do you draw a sphere? How can you break it down to a different understanding or abstraction? Skeleton. Okay, so outer body, armature, sculpture, a literal form of enclosure. There are different types of things that we can study, and that might inspire further research. Sea urchin. It's an amazing thing. Beautiful thing also. And when you look into it much closer, you can see this kind of porous filtering. No wonder they are. Do anybody eat sea urchin? I'm the only one. I know it tastes horrible. No, I think it tastes wonderful, but it as a organism itself, it's just an amazing filter. Look at this when you like zoom in. There's just all these openings to be able to take on the massive weight of the waves, to balance out their loads, to filter in the salt water. It's really made for that. Another phenomena that people would have to find inspiring in the world of biology is the process of metamorphosis. There's a whole gamut of that, but this exterior, not only transformative quality of being something and translating into another, but removing your shell, the exterior skeleton, and then you grow into something else. You grow out to be something else that allows, in this case, to be able to fly. It's a phenomenal that it's just fantastic and beautiful. And it takes time, so it's not just a 3D process. It's a fourth dimension because it's not just an X, Y, and Z. The time is involved. So this is part of the 4D environment. And looking into the anatomy is also an important thing when you take a look at how the pieces of functioning organs or pieces that are supporting the life of its own inside of its own structure. I think it merits to be included as part of the interior design investigation. Molting, shedding or removing. We talk about skin a lot in interior design, and that there's something to be said about the outer layer skin, the extra layer, the layering, the composite of pieces put together. What's the function of that, the translucency of it, maybe the durability of it, or the flimsiness of it, the sense of renewal. Dendrochronology is something that people talk about in a different way because it's the trees that grow every year and add another layer. And it's just an amazing phenomena, but we can also use this type of an approach and growth pattern into maybe design thinking. We cannot forget nest. Sculpting, assembly, there are different forms and strategies that it makes what it is. Sometimes it's taking it out, sculpting it away, or some sort of a serial assemblage that makes a piece to be in one form. Silk, for example. And adaptation to the environment. This Eurodid moth, it almost looks like a 3D printing, some kind of an architectural thing, but this is nature doing it to accommodate the humidity and the rain in Papua New Guinea so that it actually is just a wireframe. And Alaba, it remains safe, secure, protected, but it's weathered so that it doesn't flood and drown inside. And then you can see the exit point where it's ready to go and grow out and metamorphosize, and they're ready to exit. Pods, or another things, the vessels, envelope, container, if you will, that you find in nature everywhere. Maybe we can take that into some sort of an inspiration as well. Level 3. So, like I said earlier, the natural ecosystems is a hard thing to incorporate in interior design. So how do we do that? And I said, at this point, we're trying to look into social responsibility, life cycle analysis, and indoor environmental quality. So the purpose of it is that it's not just made well, it's done what it does in nature and mimicking it. So it's not just copy and paste of the surface, but we want to have the design proposal contribute back, or maybe the occupier, the people who use that space, benefits something from. And that's what we're trying to achieve. Oh, here's Carolyn. She's a really famous scientist. You know? She's our colleague, the director of sustainability design. She lectures life cycle assessment. So we collaborate on this, and she comes and represents CSDS, but teaches and shares how the understanding of life cycle, cradle to cradle, mentality and use, so that we're not just using recycled material, but thinking about the whole carbon footprint, resources, where it comes from, the impact, how does it actually contributes, or does it have any benefits or reduction of danger, social equity. And this loop, the diagram, we see a lot, and this could go into another whole day of lecture, but just to think about the holistic approach of extraction, material processing, and then you need to transport. There is a duration of time that it gets used. And when that job is done, what happens? Does it go to the waste? Does it go to the bin? Can we have an opportunity to relook at that, whatever it's demolitioned or removed? It's not a waste. It might be an opportunity to reclaim, upcycle. That kind of a loop is a very important thinking in level 3 biomimicry. And you can diagram it. And some of the students' work probably have those kind of things intact. I want to give them more time, so I'm going to do this quickly. Indoor environmental quality. It's something that it's relevant to interior design. There are 5 components or more. I like to tap in the 6th one, the healing quality. I can't quantify it yet, so maybe in the next couple of years, I would like to add on the something that allows the spatial conditions, structure, or something that allows you to heal. Spiritually or emotionally or physically. But that's another whole challenge on my own. But you can break it down to sensorial experiences, light, air, sound, temperature, the way it fits the ergonomics. Well, natural light, in this case, for biomimicry, maybe there's an example of a SMEG that it's a Pratt graduate who came up with this design, photovoltaic, but it's mimicking the leaves of it. Air quality is something that it's very important to our health. So not only ventilating, but trying to eliminate any kind of off-gas or toxins or arsenic, carcinogenic material in the air. This room will be a perfect one for case studies, but layer within layers. So, you know, like an onion piece, but there was some kind of an approach. And it doesn't have to be biomorphic at all time. You can abstract and apply biomimic kind of tendencies and use same geometry. I think that's okay to do. It doesn't have to be organic at all time. Acoustical quality. Materials could carry a different kinds of coefficient and absorption. So start to think about how sound transmit, gets absorbed. We use it in a construction wall types a lot, but in this case, more like an industrial furniture scale, to be able to use a material that absorbs sound, trying to give you a quiet space, and that it's reversible. Thermal comfort is also an important thing, obviously. Just to understand the structure and design accordingly so that the ventilation and thermal heat movement circulates well, so that you can embed it in your design about your energy efficiency, which also allows you to feel more comfortable in the space. Ergonomics. This is an important one because it allows you to be able to engage in the space that everybody has a different posture, size, age, weight, problems, whatnot. But if it gives you a comfort, and if we can design it and understand it a little bit so that we can design something more appropriate to the human body, the way it fits, the way our body engages the furniture, computer, bed, chair, anything. So we push that as well. And Dreyfus has a whole book on it, so it might be interesting. So at the end, the framework for us in this interior design class is to be able to identify, translate, discover, but we need to abstract. Like I said, the spider web example was interesting to show that you can't just grow spider web and reuse into your spandex or fabric. We need to find a way to abstract that information and understand the chemical structural component, and then apply appropriately and emulate. But not just emulating it, but we need to step back and evaluate what you propose and see how we have been able to include those level 1, 2, 3 and assess. That's an important package. Because if you just throw and propose and there's no feedback, there's no way of testing and finding out whether it's working or not. So the evaluation part is an important thing. So I think this kind of wraps up the summary of the piece, and then it's ready to show 3 examples from the students how this has manifested into their proposal. So let me introduce Carolyn Blackburn. We might go a little over 11:50. Hopefully you don't have to catch any Oprah or something. There's, I think, a lunch break after this, so we have a little bit of time. But I want to give them 5 minutes each to do what they do. And then...
Wait. Hi, everyone. So my name is Caroline. I'm going to take you through my project that I did last semester with Tetsu. So really quickly, what is biomimicry? It's imitating nature to find design solutions according to the 3 levels. So the first level is the natural form, the second level is the natural process, so the construct, and the third level is the performance, like what do you give back to your environment. So I decided to research more about how nature cools down. And I found various plants and animals which use convection current and evaporation to cool down. So a convection current is just a physical phenomena which does that warm air rises and cool air sinks. So for example, the zebra uses that to cool down his body. The air temperature rises more above the black stripes than above the white ones, which creates the air to create a fan above himself. And you add sweat to that and you have a natural AC. So it's pretty wonderful. So I decided to apply that idea of natural AC to residential buildings to replace our sub-consuming AC. Did you know that each time you raise your AC by 1 degree, you use 6% more energy? That's a lot. So I chose for my project to use level 1 fish scales, so that's the aesthetic. Level 2 scales as well, but for their structure and how they overlap and how they're bended. And for the level 3, the zebra stripes for cooling. Then I did a little bit of material research here at the CSDS on how to keep cool versus keep warm, because I needed to create that difference in temperature to create a convection current. And of course, using natural materials, recycled, recyclable, post-consumer. So I found great examples here of post-consumer leather. Cork is extremely insulating, and materials to enhance evaporation, which clay is a great example of that. Then I chose a specific site so that I could analyze how the sun comes in. This is a building in Paris that was built in 1965. It's a terrible insulation. It's also a curtain window facade, so the sun comes in like crazy. That's my design development process. So I tried to use those 3 levels to create a layered like curtain, like drapery in front of the window, because that's where the sun comes in, to create a convection current at this place. So I tried different things and analyzed how the air would behave, I guess. And what I came up with is this. So you have the level 3, it cools down the room. The level 2, it's inspired by the scale construct, and the level 1, it looks like scales. So it's a multi-layer drapery that allows cool air to come through at the bottom and traps warm air at the top. And lastly, what I did was the life cycle analysis and understand like from the raw materials to the end of life, what's like what energy and resources I'm using and what emissions and waste I'm creating, and how I can improve my project with that. That's it.
All right, thank you. And we welcome, thank you, Carolyn. We welcome Suching Chang.
Hi everyone, my name is Suching. I am in my thesis year in the interior design program. So for biomimicry class last semester, I worked on the research and the, okay. So for biomimicry class, I worked on the research and initial design part for my thesis project. So while working on the project, here are some ideas from nature that fascinated me. Growth, distribution, adhering, detaching, shrinking, and expanding. So for my thesis project, I am implementing a material called diatomaceous earth at a train station located in a humid climate in Taiwan to passively dehumidify the interior of the train station. It is a natural, sustainable material which can be found at the bottom of seabed or riverbed as sedimentary rock. So 85% of diatomaceous earth consists of interconnected pores. Diatoms can absorb up to 1 times its own weight and still behave like dry powder. Diatomaceous is very porous and absorptive. There are 2 kinds of diatomaceous earth. One is mainly used as insecticide. The other is used for industrial filtering system. Industrial grade diatomaceous earth is harmful for human and pets. So for my project, I will be using food grade diatomaceous earth for safety concern. Here are various diatomaceous earth applications. So product designs, there's bath mat, cup coasters, soap dish, and clocks. And in the interior, it's used as stencils and for wall application. So I've decided to use casting method as my fabrication technique. So the yellow object you see here is a 3D printed form. The white material is a silicone mold, and the brown object is the final diatomaceous earth form made from casting. So my site is in Taiwan. It's in Yilan, Taiwan. The east faces the Pacific Ocean, and on the west, there's the mountains, the paddy fields. Yilan is very beautiful. This is Yilan's climate record from 1981 to 2010. The average relative humidity is 82%. It's above the human comfort range between 25% to 60%. Here are some pictures from Toten train station. As you can see from the images, the interior consists of fans and open windows for ventilation, but I've been there many times and the inside just feels very, very uncomfortable. So this is the diagram showing, this is the site drawings of my site. Here are some diagrams showing the program circulation, noise in the train station, the surrounding programs, the circulation for the arrival passengers, for the departing passengers. And from the passenger circulation diagrams, the blue indicated dynamic passing zone, the pink indicates seating area with less traffic passing by, the sound diagram. And the panel density is a combination of noise and dynamic static zone diagram. So the inconsistent spacing suggests movement, and the consistent spacing suggests lingering. So here is the precedent study of Frei Otto's work, the structural studies of bone and skins. This is the Munich Olympic Stadium. So I will be casting the materials into panels that will be held together by a surrounding frame. When the panels become saturated with water, water will fall down alongside the frame into the small clear pipe, and finally into the main pipe that collects the water to return back to the ground. So when hot air rises, the moisture will be absorbed into the panels through capillary action. Moisture will then be condensed and come down to the ground as precipitation. So my thesis is in progress, but this is a section showing panel density, signage system, and programs in the train station. So in a way, I'm trying to create a closed loop system for the water at the same time provides a performance quality of water in the interior. So what is the life expectancy of the diatomaceous earth panel? There are 3 disposable methods for spent diatomaceous earth. One is incineration, but it's high cost and consumes energy and produces carbon dioxide. The other one is landfill. It takes up space on land and produces unwanted odor over time. So there's third option is to reuse as biofilters. It's a closed disposable system patented by Schobark in 1988. The spent earth panel can be used to improve microorganism activity in the soil by applying extra nutrients as compost for plants. So the proposed method is after 9 months, July to March, there will be inspection to take down panels that have developed color change or has been producing unwanted odor in the station. They will be deformed and packed in bags like compost for tourists or local farms to take away for free. So this is the rice cultivation phase diagram. So the spent diatomaceous earth needs to be deformed and ready to be applied to soil in July. So this is a life cycle assessment of the material diatomaceous earth. And the pink triangle indicates where the diatomaceous earth can be harvested. The closest location to harvest is Anhui. It's within 500 miles radius from Taiwan. The less distance, the less carbon footprint. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so just initially we looked at a number of different things within nature that inspired us and looked at what biomimicry was. And from these initial studies, I chose to focus on this idea of symbiosis. I'm also in my thesis year, and this relates to my thesis project, along with this idea that interiors, while they speak to how people interact with space, they also influence how people interact with people. And so that was particularly of interest to me. So within the idea of symbiosis, I'm focusing on this idea of mutualism. So the benefit of two organisms living together and how they benefit from being in proximity to each other. So the particular relationship that I focused on was that of mature oak trees and bracket fungi, in particular the beefsteak fungi. So basically what happens is the fungi, the dead tree tissue on the interior of the tree, which is no longer of use to the tree, becomes food for the fungus. And what they enter through an exterior wound or opening within the tree through the live outer ring that still is living and producing within these trees. Surprisingly, there's actually benefits to the tree for having the fungi there. So what happens is they're able to reclaim some of their lifetime savings as it goes, as it's digested by the fungus. So within the hollow of the tree, they're able to reclaim some of those things. There's advantages to dealing with mechanical stress as root systems become older and are more fragile. The light decreasing the density of the tree provides mechanical advantages, and it also brings opportunity for habitats for other organisms which will come and live in this hollowed out structure which normally wouldn't exist, or they normally wouldn't work together. So these are just some different ideation design precedents looking at both structure and materiality and how things function together, and some early initial design strategies, which initially were focusing more on sort of furniture. But then as I was relating it more to my thesis, which is looking at two transitioning communities, and the one is kids who are aging out of the foster care system, and then so that they're now looking for, they've lost sort of their support system, and they need, research has shown that the need for interdependent relationships and sustained social relationships is important, which they lack coming out of that system. And so I've paired them with another group in transition, which are seniors who are transitioning into retirement, who are looking for a different way to give back all of the resources that they've sort of accumulated over their lives, and also to take advantage of things that they may not be using in the way that they were when they were in the professional field. So sort of below you can see the diagram of this idea of the tree and the fungus and what results from that. And so these are the top methodologies, the social interaction, and then the other one, which isn't as much in my actual design, is sort of the recapturing of space not needed from one to the other. My site is an old school property in Harlem. And then you can see within the axon, what I'm creating are these communal wall interactions between apartments of the two user groups. So the highlighted spaces are, what I'm creating is a communal, this particular area is a communal table system that happens. So those are the highlighted spaces. So in terms of my design, what I'm looking for is when it's closed, you see a portion on the youth side that's permanent, that serves as a counter/eating area. And then what happens is, in order to change it, the top surface flips up and then slides up into the wall, creating an opening between the two. Well, and then on the senior side, they pull down the full table surface between the two. So it's this idea of sort of, on the youth side, you have in terms of like level 1 and 2, this bracket fungi that sort of exists against the wall, and then through their effort and manipulation, they then create this opening between the two spaces to provide for this intergenerational community and identity and the passing of different sort of needs and social characteristics between the two, as you can see in the diagram on the left-hand side. So in terms of like form and ideation, I was looking at the spore tubes within the bracket fungi, and so that was part of the surface that you see on the part that flips up from the youth side, as well as the mycelium, which are what actually go into the tree to eat the hyphae that break down the material on the inside of the tree. And so those become interlocking systems, which is sort of hard to see in the photos, but as the piece comes down from the senior side, it interlocks in this hyphae pattern between the two. And these are different model series that I explored in terms of how this table would open and operate, whether it would slide down or open, different portions that way. And then just looking at different materials, so this idea of using mycoboard, which is actually made up of fungi, and it's made locally, and it can be routed to create like the hyphae pattern and such. And also it has acoustical properties so that when the wall is closed, issue that could arise between having this opening. And then also the idea of reclaimed wood, and then again the acrylic sheets and tubes to make that surface. So this idea of using a single material that isn't using resins, that would instead be a clamped kind of structure, so that you are limiting when it comes to being recycled or reused. It doesn't have to be broken apart into sections. Yeah. So.
All right, thank you, Bitsy. So those are 3 examples of students' work. There are other 10 or 11 students who are there. The class will be available next semester as well, so for those who are interested. And it's a small step. It's, like I said, there's so much potential, there's so much inspirations out there, and that each students can identify, use their current project to be able to tap into this wealth of geniuses that are available, innovations that it's done by nature, and being able to incorporate that holistically in all different levels. And I think it will be a really wonderful proposal, a responsible designer that we can nurture and grow. So we're excited about taking this not a leap, but a small step, and maybe in 20, 30 years later, I'll really be able to master or be more thorough in this investigation and incorporation of biomimicry. I guess, moving forward, I'd like to bring in, collaborate more with life cycle assessment and calculation. Professor, maybe invited guest speaker from biology, chemistry, natural history. I think those things would be really wonderful addition to it. And we're just excited to be able to use this in the design, because sustainable design is an important thing, but it's hard to tap into, and how to do it, how to teach. So it feels like we found a good light at the end of the tunnel. It's a long tunnel to go, but it's a wonderful path. So I'm very excited about being able to share this with you, and thank you so much for coming today. And if you have 5 minutes, I wanted to show you one quick video. It's entertaining. So if you really, could you bring that up? In last 1 hour, we talked about biomimicry, how to incorporate biology into our human practice. But I just wanted to show you something. Remember that one that we downloaded? Right here. So there are things in nature that are trying to mimic us, people mimicry, and it's really cool. And it's not my student, but I've seen this bird before taking structural engineering class at School of Architecture. So, I'm just kidding. It's amazing. There are many breeds in Papua New Guinea, and so pretty. Welcome to Attenborough's world. It's a really good place.
Those are pigeon wing beats. That's a modest tiger parrot. And that, a sulphur-crested cockatoo. Even more surprising, he's an avid collector with a very appreciative eye for colour. This male favours red and orange flowers. And he's very fond of fungus.
Everybody has an uncle like this.
Not everything he collects stays where it should. He puts these treasures on display within and around a construction that has taken him years to build. A giant bower woven around a central sapling, carpeted with moss. This grand design is no nest, it's the ultimate seduction parlor. But he's not alone on this hillside. He's got 6 rivals within earshot. This one prefers darker colours, decorating his bower with deer dung. And charcoal. Visual effect is of crucial importance. Clearly, he hadn't planned on all this sprouting fungus.
Organic farm.
He and his nearest rival live a stone's throw apart. Competition is intense. It's the dung ball bower that is the first to catch the female's attention. He withdraws while she inspects his workmanship. She's back again and seems impressed. But on closer inspection, she's less convinced. Perhaps it was that sprouting fungus. Back at the flower bower, the male performs a dress rehearsal. He senses she's watching. This is the moment he's been working towards. His bower channels his song in her direction. A final check is to her liking. Few birds devote such craft, effort, and ingenuity to achieve this life-defining moment.